We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
Legendary actor and director Clint Eastwood once said, "Winning the election is a good news, bad news kind of thing. Okay, now you're the mayor. The bad news is, now you're the mayor." Politics is indeed a tumultuous gig to be working, and one that's fraught with trepidation and danger. And it can be a whole lot worse for the public at large. Welcome to Liberty Nation Radio here on the Radio America Network. I'm your host, Mark Angelides. We have a very special show for you today with a lot of in-depth analysis and hopefully more than a little fun, discussing midterms, polling, politics, and a whole lot more. I want to take a moment to say a special thank you to our listeners out in Great Falls, Montana on KQDI 1450 AM and 97.5 FM. We thank you for taking the time to tune in. Remember, this show is proudly sponsored by LibertyNation.com, where you can access podcasts, breaking news, analysis, and a range of biting and brilliant shows to whet your appetite for freedom and your fondness for the great American Constitution. We're just a few weeks out from the midterm elections that are going to shape not just the policy for the next 2 years and beyond, but perhaps even the very fabric of America. Amid the hue and cry of politicos and pundits lie the pollsters and their precarious wares. Are they offering a glimpse of the future or a vanity-packed roadmap to a desired outcome? Well, we're extremely lucky today to be joined by the best husband and wife duo since Mr. and Mrs. Smith, with less martial arts and more political analysis. Hopefully, Liberty Nation's editor-in-chief, Lisa K. Donner, and Liberty Nation's senior political analyst, who also happens to be longtime host of this here radio show, Tim Donner.
I'll give you an evaluation of the Mr. and Mrs. Smith sing a thing offline, Mark.
Absolutely. We'll put it in the blooper reels, like Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise. Now, let's start with the broader picture. We're going to defy polite custom and ask the gentleman first on this one. Tim, there's more than 450 races taking place this November 8th. How many of them actually matter?
Well, in the House, there's about 35 seats that are considered to be toss-ups. In the Senate, there's about 8. And basically in the House, it's hard to envision the Republicans not taking over control. It's just a matter of to what degree. In the Senate, the critical races really come down to Georgia, Pennsylvania, Nevada, New Hampshire. These are all considered toss-up states, in Ohio as well, now that a new poll has shown J.D. Vance to have fallen into a tie. So the Senate seat, the Senate control is, as I wrote a few weeks back, is on a knife's edge. The House, not so much, but I do sense that after a late summer surge in which Joe Biden got some legislation passed and was able to put a few things up on the board, that his popularity in the Democrats increased a bit, but I sense that it's turning back the other way now, and that the GOP is going to do better than we thought a couple of weeks ago, mostly because of the key issues that people are going to vote on. And it's not going to be abortion, climate change, and tax increases and student loan payoffs. It's going to be the economy and inflation and crime and the border and the sense of chaos. And I think the closer we get to the election, the better that's going to make Republicans look, especially since they've now released this commitment to America, which has all the right key hot button poll tested buzzwords in it to appeal to those in the center and right of center.
Tim, can I just take you back for 1 second to the Ohio race that you mentioned? I'm sort of interested because I was listening to an interview by Robert Cahaley, the founder of the Trafalgar Group polling firm. They've got a really good track record. And he was saying, everybody wants to make Ohio a swing state. He said, Ohio is really no longer a swing state.
It isn't.
And,
it isn't.
And so do you think the polling on the Vance race is maybe not as tight as they're saying it is?
Trump won Ohio by 8 points in both 2016 and 2020. It's not a swing state anymore. It would be, even though the polls have tightened there, I'd be shocked if J.D. Vance lost that race. If he does, it would signal that the Republicans most likely would not, could not gain control of the Senate.
You know, I was actually, I was reading, and I do this so you don't have to. I was reading a CNN article earlier today.
Ah,
Yeah, somebody has to do it. Somebody actually has to go on that site and read it. But one of the columns on there was suggesting that people in these key races, and it mentioned Ohio and J.D. Vance, they're not spending money on television ads. Why do you think that is, Lisa?
oh, that's interesting, Mark. I wasn't aware of that. But that sort of makes sense because a lot of people are getting their news from other places, namely the internet. Haha, like places like Liberty Nation. You know, more and more that's happening. And so, and plus it's easy to really mute those commercials and buzz through them on television if you have a DVR or if you watch on, say, YouTube or streaming, that kind of thing. So that sort of makes sense. I mean, Tim is really, he goes back way back to his days at Syracuse Newhouse Communication School, and they talked about the power of TV advertising. But I think it's just moving venues. They still take the video and the commercial, but they put it on different places.
Yes,
Yeah, they're able to target it quite a bit better than they used to. Because the thing is, if you think about it, when you put an ad on TV, 80% maybe or 90% of the people either aren't paying attention or can't be persuaded or have already made up their mind. Whereas with internet advertising, you can target it much more precisely to the demographic groups that you need to win in order to, to be victorious in the race.
Yeah, this is interesting because we're often told by those in the bastions of the Fourth Estate that it's the Democratic Party that are the ones who are superb at campaigning. They're the ones who are the cutting edge of campaigns. We heard this from the Obama days all the way through to today. But it seems that the Republicans, if they're targeting more towards the internet and forgoing ad buys on television, surely that's a switch around from where it used to be, right?
Well, I think, again, it's the micro-targeting capacity of campaigns now to be able to spend their money the most efficiently. TV advertising is no longer the most efficient, but I sense that when we get close to the time of November 8th, which is Election Day, that we'll see more of that bulk advertising, probably designed to incite greater turnout.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's what I was thinking. They really need to get their turnout.
Lisa, speaking of turnout, we've heard a lot about, you kind of avoided the discussions recently on the red wave coming or the red tsunami. And this seems to be happening on both sides. If you follow the more left-leaning media, there's a blue wave coming. There's a blue tsunami coming. But which one's right? What's the zeitgeist in the country at the moment? Is it really just people putting wishful thinking in there?
Okay, let's face it. Turnout is mostly determined by the issues. And so what are the issues? Before the landmark ruling of Dobbs, which ended Roe v. Wade, Republicans were coming out in full force. And so what the Democrats were thinking is, now they've got the edge. But Rasmussen just did a poll, and they broke down the electorate by party identification, and they said 64% of Republicans say they're very excited about the midterms, compared to 56% of Democrats who say they're very excited about the midterms. And that wasn't taken in a September poll. But before the landmark ruling, for sure, Republicans were coming out in much larger numbers to the primaries. After the landmark ruling, it tightened up. More Democrats came up, but still the Republicans are leading. So in terms of voter turnout, the Republicans have the edge.
Later in the show, we talk liberties, death by 1,000 cuts. But after this short break, we're back with Tim and Lisa Donner, crunching the midterm numbers. We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides. Entertaining, informative, and just plain fun. Watch Liberty Nation's The Conservative 5. produced by conservatives for conservatives. C5's The Left Free Zone, hosted by Liberty Nation's Lisa K. Donner, joined by a raucous, irreverent panel of authors, deconstructing leftist narratives, debating the hot topics, and remembering to laugh. Join the official conservative safe
You only
space.
did that to piss Jeff off.
Liberty Nation's The Conservative Five.